Once, not so long ago, in this city, there was an enchanted kingdom where common folks could visit with America's royalty every evening at 8 and twice on Saturday. Just about every large town had one. For us, it was called the Florida Theater.
I believe my first impression was the fact that it was just so beautiful. Of course, I never had seen anything like it. Just to come inside, just to walk into the lobby, it just took your breath away.
It was just something we wanted to have for the public splendor. It was a splendid place to go to. It was a place that you could go to and enjoy an evening or an afternoon and forget what's going on the outside.
There just is no comparison to what a movie is today and what it was when the Florida Theater was active. It was more than the movies. It was the environment you were surrounded, that you left civilization, you left the mundane things of life, and you went into a different world, a world of make-believe.
I guess my first early movie-going experiences were memories of my mom bringing me to the Florida Theater. I'll never forget the first time she took me into the balcony. You got to realize the balcony at the Florida Theater is probably as large, if not larger, than any theater you'll attend today. And it's built on a very steep grade. And the first time she took me up those steps, leading me by the hand, I don't think you could have pried me from her with a crowbar, because in my mind, I just knew we were going to tumble right out of the balcony. I was frightened to death. But after we got in our seats and settled down and started watching the movie, of course, my fear went away, because I began to look around and I noticed those huge, gorgeous chandeliers. And I suppose that was the beginning of my love affair with the Florida Theater. As the years went by, especially when I was a child, I probably watched the theater as much as I watched the films.
For over 4 decades, the Florida Theater flourished as a motion picture palace. It was built in an age of heroes and flappers and opulence in this country. An era called the Golden Roaring 20s. In America, there was optimism, an abundance of patriotism, real homemade ice cream parlors, and the beginning of your local traffic jam. There were hats. And the music made it totally irresistible to dance. And the phonograph and radio were new inventions catching the public's fancy. Broadway and vaudeville theaters were booming, but the long lines were gathering for a new kid on the block. The motion picture. Born at the break of the 20th century, movies were at first viewed only as a novelty, but the art of making motion pictures developed quickly. By 1925, over half the population was going to movies at least once a week. Theater chains all over the country rushed to build the biggest and best theaters to attract customers. And it was during this time that the most outlandish, the most romantic, and the most original buildings in America were constructed. The Motion Picture Dream Palace. Theater architects borrowed from every conceivable style, from French Renaissance to Art Deco to styles which defy category. Audiences might find themselves seated in Spanish courtyards under twinkling stars, an Egyptian temple, or an Italian palace. No buildings in America have been as well attended, with some theaters having 5,000 to 6,000 seats. the ticket holder was treated like royalty. Small pipe organs in the lobbies entertained patrons waiting for the next show. Lounges were spacious and palatial, no ordinary restrooms. And scores of ushers attended in gallant service. The Motion Picture Dream Palace, where you could lose yourself for a couple of hours. Florida was being discovered for the second time by sun seekers from the north. Jacksonville in 1927 was a town of 150,000 people. There was only one bridge, one radio station, and the airport was one grass-covered runway. At the beginning of 1927, there were 14 theaters playing vaudeville and movies, and although there was the Palace Theater, Jacksonville's movie Dream Palace was yet to be opened.
Well, you know, in 1927, and I guess it started in, say, 26, we were in a big boom, and things were building, you know, really building here in Florida, and I guess other places, too. And it may have been just the thing to do to build a beautiful theater. And an air-conditioned theater, that was something, air conditioning. And the air conditioning unit was on top of the building. You could see it from miles away. It was something to talk about, you know. Our Florida theater, it was just something big. I came and saw the crowds, just people everywhere to see the new theater. I was a candy girl, and so far as I know, no theater had any candy girls before, had sold candy before. And they took an old organ and put little shelves in it to put the candy on. And then I stood behind the organ and sold the candy. And the organ case was painted an antique gold, and it was just beautiful. It seemed to fit in beautifully with the decor of the lobby of the theater. It's just a beautiful theater, and still is. Of course, it's pretty run down. The mezzanine, I remember, especially being so pretty with the throne-like chairs and the soft lamps, old-fashioned looking, or I don't know how to describe them. Even the ladies' restroom was just so pretty, just so beautiful.
I came down from the New York area and was surprised to find a theater so elaborate. Magic, really, as you're entering the world of show business. You could feel it.
The year of victory as MacArthur returns to the Philippines. The flag at Iwo Jima. Eisenhower back from Europe victorious. And peace comes to the world. Hundreds of thousands of American soldiers return to a very special welcome home as President Truman smiles for the camera.
Mrs. Truman tried to christen a bomber, and what a bombardment!
Going to the Florida Theater was not like just going to the movies. The highlight of the evening was usually Jimmy Knight at the organ and a sing-along.
When I got old enough to ride the bus to town on my own and go to the movies, if there were two movies I wanted to see and one of them was at the Florida Theater, there was never any doubt. And I think another thing that really impressed me when I was that young and very impressionable, there was a lot to impress you about the Florida Theater, was the ushers.
It was very nice to be an usher here. I mean, like you were really going to accomplish something by being in the theater by itself. Just being in the place gave you a special type of a feeling, much less when you worked in it. You got a bigger feeling altogether. So a feeling of pride.
They were decked out in these splendid uniforms that had a bit of a military look.
The ushers in those days, everybody looked toward them. You know, it was like he was a special person around the theater.
Of course, they were there to help you, but as a child, they were very stern.
If anybody wanted anything, or if a patron came in and needed something, the usher was the first person they talked to about it.
They wouldn't let you talk, they wouldn't let you smoke.
Or left the hat underneath the seat while we'd be the usher, they'd ask to help find it.
And they had this militaristic look, and I guess I was a little bit afraid of them. When I got older, it was nice knowing that they were there to answer your every question, to help you out. It added to the luxury and the elegance of the theater.
We had the dressing rooms in the back of the stage. Above the stage over to where I'm standing here would be the left of the stage. There's 3 floors, I believe, of dressing rooms. And we had our uniforms, and then we'd get dressed in there. And after they got dressed, they'd all form outside of the exit door and walk down the alley and down Noonan Street in a military fashion. We'd line up here in the theater, in this foyer. There was a beautiful grass rail right there, and we'd all stand behind it, sort of at attention, while the chief usher would look us over and see that the shoes were fine, no spots on the shoes, the uniforms looked nice, and the gloves that we used to wear were spotless, and that we all had a smile on our face and everything so that we could greet the people pleasantly and everything. And sometimes the ushers have to dress up in different costumes for advertising up-and-coming films, like we dressed up as pirates, cowboys, and doctors, or whatever the picture happened to be about. The ushers weren't allowed to watch the movie because that way they would not be able to give service to the patrons as they were coming into the theater. And if they were watching the movie, they would forget everything else that was going on because the movies were very good at the time.
I'm Father Flanagan.
You're sending me to my doom, eh? Well, you're wrong, Christian. I'll take this boat as she floats to England if I must. I'll live to see you, all of you, hanging from the highest yard arm in the British fleet. I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. heard you turned up. I want to show you my new dog. Look at her.
Oh, she's beautiful. She doesn't seem well, Grandfather. You must go now.
I'm not going. You know I'm not going. Oh, please let me stay.
But I want to be alone.
That isn't true. You don't want to be alone.
Never mind about loving me. You're a woman sending a soldier to his death with a beautiful memory. Darling, kiss me. Kiss me once.
You low-down, cowardly, nasty thing, you. They were right. Everybody was right. You are a gentleman.
Your hair is like a field of silver daisies. I'd like to run barefoot through your hair.
From the very beginning, the Florida Theater offered the best that Hollywood had to offer.
Mae West played very often, and she was about the only wicked thing shown. And she was supposed to be quite wicked, you know.
Long lines stretched around the block, and often the entire 2,000 seats were completely filled.
Everybody was happy to be in one of them.
But everybody dressed up to go to the theater, and you looked nice. And even the teenagers on Saturday afternoon, it would be full of teenagers. They all were all dressed up, and they all behaved themselves all the time.
Films were promoted